I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice President Beeler. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's meeting of the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees. Good to see a boardroom that's packed with attendees, and I know we have some folks who are visiting with us in our lobby, watching via closed-circuit television. I also want to express our thanks for everybody who's watching via our YouTube feed. We welcome everybody, and thank you for spending your Monday evening with us. First thing we need to do is to call this meeting to an order, and we'll start with the adoption of the agenda. Board members, any additions or changes to tonight's proposed agenda? Hearing none, administration?
The administration has no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for the Monday, November 22nd, 2021 regular board meeting as presented?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the November the 8th, 2021 executive session and regular board meeting and the November 17th, 2021 executive session. Board members, any additions or changes to those minutes? Administration?
The administration has no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the November 8th, 2021 executive session and regular board meeting and the November 17th, 2021 executive session as presented?
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. That motion also carries by a vote of 5-0. We'll move on to the superintendent's recognitions and announcements. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Welcome, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving. Glad that you're here. At this time, I'd like to introduce and welcome a special guest student ambassador from Penn High School, Kiara Vadessenbach. Kiara, please, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Unfortunately, our regular student school board ambassador, Manal, could not make it today, so I'll be filling in, and you'll be seeing a lot more of me in the future when Manal graduates. So good evening, President Riley, members of the board, and Dr. Thacker. Tonight, I'll be sharing some athletic and academic highlights, as well as some projects Kingsman Court is currently working on. In athletic news, senior Julie Smith made it to the Indiana All-Star team and competed in the Mid-East Cross Country Championships, meaning she was one of the best 12 high school senior women from Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan combined, which is very impressive. And then in academic news, 3 Penn Spellbowl members qualified for the individual state competition. Felix Zhang scored a perfect 90 out of 90, making him one of the 2 students in all of Indiana to earn the gold rank. And Salem Fitwe was recently announced to be one of the 1,617 Coca-Cola semifinalists out of the 68,000 total Indiana applicants. So it's always exciting to see PHM and Penn students coming out on top. In Kingsman Court news, we finished our Turkey Legs fundraiser last week with a total of $2,638.81, which will be donated to Riley Children's Hospital as soon as possible. We're also putting our giving tree in the Penn Library for donations to the Youth Services Bureau right after Thanksgiving break. So students can donate clothing items, entertainment materials, and personal hygiene materials to homeless teens in our community in true holiday spirit. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Great. Well, thank you, Kiara. So is this your first ever Penn School Board meeting?
No, I've attended other ones, but this is my first time speaking.
Flawless.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for bringing the report to us tonight.
Well done.
Thank
You're
you.
like a pro. Move on to our next item, Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Multimedia producer Joe Fatina spoke with PHM food service workers about the rewards and importance of their jobs keeping students healthy. Food service employees have met the challenge of every cycle of the pandemic, including dealing mostly recently with supply chain issues to keep students happy, healthy, and fed year-round. They're grateful and find joy in their jobs and helping feed students and their souls. Let's take a look.
You can show your love in the food that you make, and when we're able to show our love into the food and serve that to the children, that's just an extra layer of love they can feel from us.
Why do I love working in food service? Well, the kids. interacting with the kids. It is so cool.
I just like the environment and the nice people, and I get to serve the community.
We have a great group. We all chip in and help each other, and that's what it's all about.
I have them even actually come back and ask how I made stuff, and that they really like it, and that makes me feel good that they like my cooking.
When the kids come through and they make healthy choices all on their own without us having to say, well, you got to get this or get this.
And especially now that we're doing the program where kids eat free right now, that I know a lot of kids don't necessarily have everything that they need at home. So it makes me happy to know that we're giving them nutritional food and that they're getting it without having to worry about coming up with the cost or anything like that.
Sometimes we have special education kids. They're really good kids. They do whatever we ask them. And we love having them. They're always with a smiley face.
It is very emotional when it becomes the end of the year because you see where they have come in the beginning of the year and they're timid or they don't know themselves yet. And then by the time they're fifth graders or fourth graders, they're conquering the world.
I like working with the kids because they're very interesting, and they bring a lot of joy, when you can see that they're happy and, they're having a good time.
I love the group I work with. They are wonderful women. We're all kind of from different backgrounds, different age groups. I love the regular kids that come in and come, directly to you. That definitely warms the heart.
I'm thankful for just the opportunity to help mold these children's futures and play a part of it. So I'm just thankful for a lot.
On behalf of the board and the administration, we're thankful for all the individuals who work in our food service program. This has been a challenging 2-year period of time, and the challenges that they have faced and have overcome are not to be overlooked. On behalf of the board administration, we thank Mrs. Joe Riggs and all of the individuals, the hardworking employees in our food services program for everything that they do for our students and our staff. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Okay, next we have a spotlight on schools, Horizon Elementary School, and Dr. Heather Short's going to introduce this presentation.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. It is my pleasure this evening to welcome Horizon to the PHM boardroom as opposed to PHM board going to Horizon. So this is Mrs. Amy Fedorsen, principal, and she has some great remarks and things to share with us.
Well, good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the board. Thank you for inviting Horizon here tonight to highlight our year. Our teachers have been immersed in new ways of teaching and engaging students over the past couple of years. Last summer, one of the best experiences we could have given our K-5 teachers was offering the Literacy Summit, where they were able to gain a deep and specific understanding of the components of learning to become proficient readers. So thank you for allowing that to happen. Dr. Short and Dr. Soto-Kyle provided an invaluable opportunity for both teachers and administrators. Conversations on best practices in literacy are the focus of our TLT meetings this year. One of the main takeaways from the Literacy Summit was the focus on the components of becoming, or the essential components of reading. And it was stressed that the purpose of becoming a proficient reader is so that our kids can become critical thinkers and problem solvers and learn to do something with the knowledge that they're gaining. And I've stressed to my teachers how it's so important that the kids understand why they need to learn what they are teaching them and how they can apply that to real life. So tonight, I just want to share one of the many ways that our students are doing something with the knowledge that they're gaining. Mrs. Lear's fourth graders participated in internet safety lessons at the beginning of the year. And this led to a discussion about their wish for a safe, age-appropriate, educational social media platform for kids. So Mrs. Lira organized her class into project-based learning teams and allowed them to create mock social media apps for kids. They spent a great amount of time researching internet safety and the pros and cons of social media platforms, and elements of design and psychology of color for creating an appealing homepage. They were also able to apply their computer science standards into their projects as well. So tonight, I have co-creators Maya Hamilton and Victoria Seidel with me, and I've asked them if they would like to share their project with you. Come on up, girls.
Go ahead. Hi, I'm Victoria Seidel. Hi, I'm Maya Hamilton. Our app is about getting kids to be creative and express feelings through art while being safe. To keep kids safe on our app, we have 7-digit codes that kids have to use to get in. We also have created a user contract to make kids aware of the possible dangers. We let all art companies advertise if we deem them safe for kids. On our app, you can enter art competitions. We have a new art competition every month. We will give you the theme and whether it's in a bottle or online. If you win a competition, you will get an award. You can look over all your awards in your awards box. We have safety lessons to help kids stay safe online. Another lesson we have is the color lesson. It teaches kids about color meanings. We also have weekly sand in a bottle lessons. If you figure out how to create something really cool based on our app, you can teach and post an online lesson on how to make it. You can look over art you have created in the past, and you can also create sand art online using templates we have prepared for you. Using templates is optional. If you want to chat with friends or family, we have a chat box at the top of the screen. Our contact is also in the chat box, so you can also send questions or comments to us. Any questions or comments?
What are you going to do with all the money you're making with it?
I don't know, donate it?
You kids are brilliant. Thank you so much. You two have very bright futures ahead of you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us tonight. It's so great. There's nothing that we love more than hearing from our students.
And who was the name of their teacher? Fourth grade?
Lyra.
Mrs. Lyra.
Well, Mrs. Fedorson, we couldn't be at Horizon tonight, but thank you for bringing Horizon to us. Mrs. Lyra and our students, thank you. Parents, thank you so much for being here and for presenting. This was a wonderful presentation. We absolutely loved it. You know what? I have a feeling we're going to see you guys again. I sure hope so. Have a wonderful night. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our consent agenda. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. The administration recommends approval of the 17 items appearing on the consent agenda as presented. Appearing on the personnel report and our certified staff is one retirement. Madeline Watkins, counselor at Penn High School, will retire February 1st, 2022, after what will be 25 years of dedicated service. On behalf of the board and administration, we wish Madeline the very best in her upcoming retirement.
Board members, any questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the November 22nd, 2021 consent agenda as presented by Dr. Thacker?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. And I'd like to join Dr. Thacker in wishing Madeline Watkins a wonderful, wonderful retirement. Thank her for everything that she's done for the Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation. We'll move on to our instruction action item. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. This is the approval of the curriculum and instructional changes for the Penn High School 2022 through 2023 program of the studies guide. Tonight, the proposed changes were presented for discussion at the last meeting in November and presented by Penn High School Principal Mr. Sean Gallagher and Mr. Josiah Parker. So I'd like to ask Assistant Superintendent Dr. Heather Short to present this item.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. Yes, good evening. We are asking for approval this evening for the Penn High School Program of Studies, and we do have Mr. Josiah Parker in attendance in case you have any questions prior to that.
Board members, any questions for the administration?
I would like to say this. I don't have any questions, but I did look it over extensively, and I was very impressed with the things you guys have done and some of those classes and bringing them together and making some changes. So I'd say well done on that. Good job.
Thank you. The high school administration worked hard to make sure that everything is.
I'm talking to you. Just kidding.
Save them.
Great job.
That's right.
Any other questions or comments for the administration? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the curriculum and instructional changes for the Penn High School 2022-2023 Program of Studies Guide?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. Thank you, Dr. Short. Mr. Parker, we didn't get to hear from you, but it's always good to see you anyway.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for coming out tonight. We'll move on to our
Let him
instruction.
off too easy on that.
We'll move on to our instruction reports. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. We have a very exciting presentation tonight. Our Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Dr. LaShort, will introduce this next item for us, which is a presentation on programs that are being used to supplement literacy interventions. Dr. Short?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. President Riley, members of the board, we are excited to welcome several administrators to speak with you this evening. This is a follow-up to our last presentation related to literacy and interventions that we're utilizing in our schools. So this evening we have Dr. Levon Dean Knoll, who is principal of Schmucker Middle School, Mrs. Kristen Martin, one of our assistant principals, and Mrs. Christy Campbell, who is principal of Elsie Rogers Elementary, to lead you through the presentation. Ladies.
Good evening, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, and members of the board. Thanks so much for having Levon, Kristen, and I here tonight with you to share a little bit about Heggerty, which is a phonemic awareness program, and SRA corrective reading. The Heggerty Phonemic Awareness Program is utilized at all 11 elementary schools, and the SRA corrective reading is being used at the elementary as well as secondary. Heggerty is used as a Tier 1 instructional program. It's also utilized as Tier 2 and Tier 3, and then the SRA is used more specifically towards Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction. So whenever the district looks for programs for students, we need to begin with the why in mind. The National Association of Progress Reading Assessment in 2019 reported that 65% of fourth graders and 66% of eighth graders are reading below a proficient level. So immediately this becomes our why, with comprehension being the ultimate goal in reading. Heggerty and SRA corrective reading is going to assist our students with their comprehension. I think this slide probably looks a little familiar to you because it's my understanding. It was brought to your attention last week. This is Scarborough's reading rope. And again, we're bringing it to your attention just because of how important it is in the development of reading. The reading rope is divided into two broad skill sets, as you will see or remember, the word recognition and the language comprehension strand. I'm going to focus on the word recognition strand tonight, and the girls are going to focus on the language comprehension strand. So when a student struggles to decode to read words automatically, or is a disfluent reader or struggles with spelling, teachers may identify their weaknesses in word recognition. Interventions and instruction would then focus on foundational reading skills under the umbrella of phonological awareness. Automatic word recognition is necessary for all students to become fluent readers. Heggerty is the instructional program that Penn-Harris-Madison has purchased to hone in on that phonological awareness piece. All student activities in the program offer students practice in rhyming, onset and rhyme, beginning, middle, and ending sounds, blending and segmenting, as well as phoneme manipulation. What's super important to remember, though, is that phonemic awareness is not phonics. They're two separate skills, but they do have a reciprocal approach with each other. If students lack phonemic awareness, phonics isn't going to make sense to them. Phonemic awareness is the foundation on which phonics instruction is built. Wiley Bevins, who's a phonics specialist, notes that children need a solid phonemic awareness instruction in order for the phonics piece to work. Heggerty is going to address that phonemic awareness piece, while our Wilson Foundation program is addressing the phonics with our students. And if you look up there just very quickly, I just wanted to point out that the phonemic awareness piece is all auditory, which is done in the class. There's no print involved, whereas the phonics component has the letters with the corresponding sounds. We're talking about written language, print, and most importantly, students work with reading and writing letters according to their sounds and spelling patterns and phonological structure. Phonemic awareness is often the missing piece for many of our readers. Marilyn Adams, who's a cognitive and developmental psychologist, states that the lack of phonemic awareness is the most powerful determinant of the likelihood of the failure to read. Children with a strong understanding that the words we hear and spoken are made up of individual sounds that we can blend, segment, and manipulate will be able to transfer that knowledge to print, helping them be able to read and spell. Phonemic awareness is the first step in becoming a skilled reader. So if we look at the program that we have, the lessons work alongside our phonics instruction as students map sound to print. Teachers, as I mentioned, are using Heggerty as a Tier 1 instruction in kindergarten, first grade, and in second grade. And it's also used as Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction with our reading specialists, our interventionists, our resource teachers, and our speech and language pathologists. The beauty of these Heggerty lessons is that they can be instructed in less than 12 minutes. They're multisensory, they're scripted for teachers, and they address all 8 of the phonemic awareness skills. As I mentioned earlier, that's rhyming, onset fluency, blending, isolating final or medial phonemes, segmenting, adding phonemes, deleting, and also substituting them. I know that's really hard to see, but this is an example of what the teacher's plan book looks like. On the left-hand side up there are the skills that are going down, and then the days of the week are going across. So the teacher will start on Monday, and she will address those activities in each of those boxes as we move down. And then, I don't know, Rochelle, if I just need that button clicked on YouTube. Yep. It's right at the bottom. There you go. Yep. So this right here is just a sample of what a teacher, they can go to a YouTube website to get some ideas on how to model and deliver the lessons to students. So this is just a sample as to what one of the hand motions and some suggestions with delivery would be for the teacher.
Isolating medial sounds in words is a basic phonemic awareness skill. The focus is on hearing the medial or vowel sound in a word. We ask students to isolate both short and long vowel sounds in the words they hear. We use our roller coaster hand motion when we're isolating those medial sounds. We start with our right hand at the bottom. We move up to the middle for the medial or vowel sound, and then back down for that final sound. For example, if the word was map, I would start with my right hand, app. What sound did we hear in the middle? Ah. Toad, t, ode. What sound did we hear in the middle? O.
Again, just a snippet, but if you walked into a K-1-2 classroom, you would see the teacher at the front of the class doing those exact same motions based on those 8 skills that the program provides for us. And I'm gonna turn it over to the girls for the language component.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Campbell. And as a parent of a kindergartner and a second grader, I can tell you firsthand that Heggerty works and they love it. I mean, my daughter comes home and she's doing all kinds of different things. So thank you so much for having us tonight. I would like to go ahead and touch base a little bit about, oh, can we get off the YouTube? Sorry. Oh, it's all right. All right, thank you. I would like to touch base a little bit about the corrective reading program. So corrective reading is an instructional program that does a great job at bridging the gap between elementary and secondary because it's used at both levels. Okay, so corrective reading at the middle school is used predominantly in Tier 2 and Tier 3 with our kind of our academic supports that we have available. So our interventionist uses this in small group settings.
And our reading strategies teacher uses it daily in her classroom curriculum and instruction. And I will say in the 4 years that I've been at Schmucker, I've been a part of kind of revamping the reading strategies curriculum, and adding corrective reading has been huge for our students. It has really allowed both our teacher and our students to address reading comprehension in a very direct and intentional way. And that's provided a really great resource for both our teacher and our students. Thank you. As Mrs. Campbell showed earlier, Scarborough's reading rope. So definitely corrective reading continues with that thread, with that theme. Corrective reading is specifically dealing with language comprehension, and those bottom three specifically, the verbal reasoning, the literacy knowledge, and then the language structure. So there are three main components of corrective reading. So the first component is a review. The review is really essential to corrective reading because it makes learning cyclical. And the fact that students are learning skills that they're not just learning once and then forgetting about. That learning is cyclical, and they keep coming back to it, so they continue practicing those skills. They don't forget those. And so that's a major part of that. And then it goes into the actual lesson where students are reading a passage. And then the most important part of that is that they are participating in really rich dialogue, academic dialogue, with their classmates and then obviously their teacher. That's where, the biggest bulk of the curriculum is. And then after 10 lessons, students take a mastery assessment. And that has been really beneficial, and talk about really having and celebrating small wins, because students are really able to track and monitor their own growth and take some kind of responsibility for their own learning. Thank you. So here's just a sneak peek at one of the lessons from corrective reading. So you can see that every lesson has a very focused skill. In this case, it's inference. And additionally, what we also really like about corrective reading is that a lot of the content that students are reading are also applicable to other content areas. So what students were learning about here and reading about here, they also might see in one of their health classes. And I think, the best and strongest testimonials are those of our teachers and our students. So I'd like to take a minute and read this quote from our language arts interventionist, our reading interventionist. And she shared that corrective reading has been extremely beneficial for my small groups during intervention time. I find that the small lessons are consistently interactive between the teacher and students because of the back and forth scripted lessons versus the teacher lecturing the entire time. And I think that that's exactly what corrective reading lends itself to, is that interaction and teachers really meeting students where they're at. And now I would like to hand it over to Dr. Dean Null for vocabulary.
Thank you. Well, as always, it's wonderful to present. I always love sharing what's happening at Schmucker, and many of the things that I'll share about tonight are happening at the other middle schools. And before I jump into vocabulary, I do want to give just a great thank you to Kristen Martin. She's taken a real leadership role in organizing our reading strategies classes and also our interventionist work this year. So it was great for her to be able to share it. She knows a lot of that firsthand knowledge. So of course, we know vocabulary is very important to students' ability to read. That's paramount, and we need to make sure that we focus specifically on vocabulary instruction. So I pulled a couple quotes from Doug Fisher and Nancy Fry. Of course, those were two speakers who joined us this summer at our literacy summit. So thanks to Dr. Short for getting that together, but they are experts in this area. So I want to start with that being the emphasis here, and I'm going to go into some examples of how we intentionally teach vocabulary. So going back to the reading rope, we are focusing just on vocabulary knowledge for this section of the presentation. Okay, so I thought I would start with a very specific example. So we have a vocabulary focus during our small group sessions. So as Mrs. Martin said, with our interventionists, they meet with these small group of students. We've kept them very small, usually 5 or 6 students, and they go through vocabulary lists. So this is actually a picture from one of my students when I joined a lesson. So they have a list of vocabulary words. They work with a partner, keep track of which ones they can read correctly, and talk about what they mean. So here's an example of a student who is doing that with a partner. Then if you want to go to the next slide. So we know that student tracking is so important, right? We want students to have that visible learning piece, so they can say, okay, where do I need to improve? Or, all right, I got a perfect 20 on these. That's great. I'm moving on to the next list to show growth. So this is an example of how we're really helping students target those students in tier 2 and tier 3 who need extra help in reading. And this, of course, is my favorite. I always love to hear from our students, like, Why do you want to hear from me when you can hear from a 6th or 7th grader? So I had great conversations with these students about their work in the small groups. And if you'll just some of these quotes, like it helps me in language arts because I know the words, I know I'm improving when I keep getting higher scores. So that goes back to the visible learning point. I love the second quote. It helps me get better with my writing by learning new words. So talking about that transfer and why vocabulary is important. I quote from a 7th grader. She goes, personally, it helps me with my confidence. And she goes, my parents are really proud. She continued to go on and say like, yes, I had like a 19 points at the beginning and now I'm up to a 26.5. Like she knew it right off where she was at. So I think that speaks volumes to our interventionists, but also to our students and their dedication to really the importance of growing their vocabulary and their reading knowledge. So overall, so those are very specific things with tier 1 and tier 2. So students who need extra reading help. But then we also are very specific about content vocabulary instruction in all classrooms. So from elementary to middle school. So this is still a work in progress. I think there's definitely still work for us to do here, but there are definitely some practices that you'll see in all classrooms when you come in, both elementary and middle school. So things like word walls, which you see here in this example in elementary. So you see current vocabulary math words they're working on, then review, so words that they've already covered, but they'll come back around to. Included in daily learning goals, and of course, formative assessments to make sure students are understanding those vocabulary words. So 2 examples from our last PLC at Schmucker. We talked about learning goals, success criteria, and then how we're assessing that to make sure students are making those growth points. So, and the vocabulary one is a vocabulary word wall from a math class. So again, this has the vocab words up there. Teachers keep track, make sure students are including those in academic dialogue as well as assessing for those. Then, of course, on the other side, we have learning goals and success criteria from a music class. So this one specifically talks about how they're teaching vocabulary, melody, and harmony, how they're teaching that through the class. Students understand what it means to be successful if they understand that. And then the teacher tests them at the end of the class to say, okay, do you know what melody and harmony is? Do you know how those work together? And then if they don't, they're meeting with those small groups to follow up the next day. So those are just a couple examples of vocabulary instruction and what it looks like. Can we get to the next one? There we go. So again, it's still a work in progress. As always, to try to fine tune that, it's conversations that we're having way back to the Literacy Summit to what we're currently doing now in PLCs to make sure vocabulary instruction is important, it is intentional in all areas. So I'm the last presenter, so I'll be glad to take questions or anything else from the other 2 presenters. We would love to take any of your questions or expand on anything that you would like to hear more about.
Outstanding presentation. Board members, any questions or comments?
I don't have any.
I know I didn't have any hand motions for my part.
I didn't even have to watch you. I could go like this. Well done.
To piggyback off what Mr. Garrett said, one of the beautiful things about Heggerty is how playful it is with language, and that invites students at a very young age, not just with this, but with the rhyming, that language is fun. I loved everything you said about building oracy and academic dialogue into lessons. I think that's a foundation that we often ignore. That's really critical to the literacy component. I'm grateful that you brought up vocabulary because I asked a question about it. I agree with you. I think we could be even more systematic about it, starting at the youngest of ages. But that being said, again, there is a reason the academic success that you see within this district doesn't happen by accident. The level of thought, the level of finding the best that's out there that we can use, implementing it systematically, that's not easy work. And I just get excited when you all talk about this stuff because I know that it's really high practice. So my hats off.
Good. Well, thank you. Well, we're excited to share. We're always excited to share. So.
Good.
I have a question with how you reach your tier 2 interventions in the middle school. Is that like just within the class, within a small group, like during language arts, so that they're not pulled out, or does that occur just out of curiosity?
Yeah, it can be both and, right? Okay. So some teachers would offer that extra support for students who maybe aren't getting something in class that could be considered a tier 2, but then also we have some of our small groups would be tier 2 students. So those on the middle. Right, maybe are close to passing iLearn, or their scores are increasing, but they need a little extra support where we would pull them out of classes.
Okay.
Yep. So both.
I was going to ask, follow up on that. Interventionist, this is where most of this is used, or is it used in a regular classroom as well every day?
Yeah, so it depends on different parts. So the end of my presentation where I talked about word walls and the academic dialogue, that happens in all classes, all grade levels, elementary to middle school. Haggerty, I think you can probably speak to that.
Haggerty is used in both places. It's tier 1 instruction from the classroom teacher. But then during our win time, what I need time, we can have our interventionist, or if your school has a reading specialist, it can be instructed again during that time period.
This is awesome because I tell you, the better we can read, the quicker that they will be able to get caught up on what we lost the last 2 years. So I think it's a great program. Thank you for doing it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being dedicated the way you are. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Well, if the three of you stayed around long enough, we could laud you with superlatives until about midnight. Thank you.
Yes, maybe we could do a word wall. That is a good one, Mrs. Rachel.
Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. But the superlatives that I think matter the most to you and certainly matter to us as a school board aren't the superlatives that come from the school board, but from our own students. I was really touched by our 7th grade student who said, personally, it helps my confidence. My parents are really proud of how much I've grown. And at the end of the day, I think that's why we're doing this, right? Is to help our students with academic and emotional confidence and help them grow as students. So thank you so much. This was an all-star presentation. Thank you for all the time and intellectual devotion that you've put into this project. It's been great to see all three of you.
Good to see everyone. Thank you.
We'll move on to our next action item, which is capital improvement projects. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Lenski, will share a request for approval to award bids for a few capital improvement projects. Mr. Lenski.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, President Riley, members of the board. As Dr. Thacker mentioned, the administration has several capital improvements to recommend this evening. As you may be aware, many industries continue to experience delays in the shipment of goods and materials. And in addition, vendors are advising us that we should expect price increases come the first of the year. So we have several items that we're proactively requesting approval for tonight. The first is for district-wide furniture improvements. The first recommendation will complete the replacement of our middle school desks that we began last spring that were installed over the summer, and also the student chairs, as well as begin a process for replacing district-wide teacher and staff chairs. The administration recommends using the national NCPA bid pricing to Lee Company for a total purchase price of $654,568.40. The second recommendation is to complete the replacement of the high school student desk and chairs. The administration recommends awarding the bid using the national Omnia bid pricing to Sharp School Services for a total purchase price of $154,945. The second item is for Penn High School track and field equipment improvements. The administration recommends purchasing a new high school pole vault pit and miscellaneous support equipment from UCS for a total purchase price of $28,782. And the administration recommends purchasing new starting blocks and a cart from Sargent Distribution for a total price of $5,346.22. Finally, we have some improvements to the Penn High School natatorium. The administration recommends purchasing, replacing the natatorium's Colorado timing system. This includes rewiring of the pool deck for a total purchase price of $21,000. And we recommend purchasing 2 laptops from ADS for a total purchase price of $1,698. And finally, the administration recommends purchasing replacement lane lines from Recreonics for a total purchase price of $4,575.33. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on any of these items.
Board members, questions or comments?
What do you mean by a lane line? Is
That's
that
it.
one up on the water or down underneath?
That's above the water. It keeps individuals in that lane.
All right.
I have a question on the desks for the middle school, the Lee Company. They're the ones that go up and down. Do you know, and I should have probably said this, how tall that those accommodate students? I know that there's been some, and it might just be their adjusted current height. When they came in new, I was hearing that kids weren't fitting underneath them. So I just wondered.
Sure, they I don't know the.
Because I could see that they adjust, and I was trying to look at the high school ones to see if they were.
Yeah, so the middle school, you're right, because of obviously the age of the child from 6th grade.
Right,
to 8th
some are
grade,
like-
they all do adjust, and kids are obviously all sizes, and so they are adjustable.
Right.
I haven't heard any stories
Okay.
about issues at the middle school,
That
but
was
we have
probably what
had
they
situations where they say, hey, we need a desk adjusted, and we accommodate that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Linsky, I've got a question, but it's not related to any of these items. It is related to capital improvements. Do we want to wait? Do we want to vote? And then I can ask my.
Let's go ahead and take the vote, and then you can ask your question. Any other questions about the agenda item? Okay, there are three motions that I will present related to capital building improvement projects build quotation awards. We will take one vote on the three motions. Do I have a motion to award the district-wide furniture improvements to Lee Company in the amount of $654,568.40 and Sharp School Services in the amount of $154,945. Award Penn High School track and field equipment purchases to UCS in the amount of $28,782 and Sergeant Distribution in the amount of $5,346.22, and award Penn High School swim console timing system replacement to Colorado Time System in the amount of $21,000, ADS in the amount of $1,698, and Recreonics in the amount of $4,575.33.
So moved.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. Ms. Roach.
Mr. Linsky, I'm wondering, I should tell you that I think what happens in that Performing Arts Center is a community treasure. I've been at a band concert, an orchestra concert, choir concert. I know we've got stellar performances in the dramatic arts and the like. I've never been to anything over there where I haven't walked out thanking the heavens for what happens in our fine arts department here at Penn. Is there any way, could you look into what it would cost to outfit the Performing Arts Center with the necessary equipment like we have in here, such that grandparents and people that can't get themselves into that building can watch our kids show off? What they can do?
I'd be happy to look into that. I know previously they've used we have a video system in there.
Okay.
I don't know if we're able to always stream that because of licensing.
Licensing
So I think
issues?
that's some of the issue, but we'll be happy to investigate that with our fine arts
I
staff.
hadn't considered that, and what a shame.
Yeah,
because-
that seems to be the problem in the past, but I'll be happy to look into that.
And is there a way we can work around that? I guess that might be more of a legal question, but I think you'd have a lot of grandparents in this district willing to donate to make it such that they can watch their.
And we're excited we have many actual improvements planned in there, so it's going to keep getting better.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is board reports requests. Board members?
I've got a couple things.
Mr. Garrett.
Were we gonna say something about Chris Giesman tonight? I thought I saw that somewhere.
I would love to say something about Chris Giesman. Chris Giesman is a former football coach at Penn High School, great teacher, and he began coaching here in 1973. He took over for a program that was 3-27 the previous 3 years, was 0-10 the year where he started. He finished the first year at 5-5. In 3 years, he had a 10-0 regular season, and he won 5 state championships, had a couple runners up, and he probably set the gold standard for the state of Indiana with regard to excellence in teaching and coaching. And I'm proud to say that we're going to be naming the Kingsman Athletic Center, the Chris Giesman Athletic Center, out at the plaza on the football field.
Yeah, just to follow up on that a little bit. I was here before Geese got here, and I know what it was like. And when Geese came, he came here like Dr. Thacker said from Kenton, Ohio, in the spring of '73. And I was thinking it was 1-33 a team he took over, but you're probably right. Felt like 1-33. But he brought with him a style, a determination, a grit. He brought with him a will to win that just would not quit. Like you said, started out 5-5 and 8-2, 10-0 and 75. The Penn mystique was born that year, and baby, today it's still alive. So, Coach, thanks for all you've done, and thank you, Dr. Thacker, for helping to continue that success that we've had with him in all sports. You know, you've helped do that. He's great in football, but I coached football with him for 23 years, and everything I learned, I took in football, I took to golf, and that's what helped me be successful as a golf coach. So, thanks, Coach. You did it for me. All right. Now can I continue then? Now I got some couple business items. Over the past, I'm hoping that on the 30th of this month, our governor will release or stop the emergency that we're under so that we can maybe move forward a little bit. And I'm hoping that we can move forward here. So I'm going to be asking that we be ready to take a vote on mask mandate at our next board meeting. And we can base that on what the governor does. But hopefully if he'll eases things up a little bit, we'll be able to take that vote and maybe get rid of the mask, at least a mandate. If you want to wear a mask, that's fine. There's nothing against wearing a mask. It's just a mandate. And there's a lot of people who don't want their children wearing a mask. I like to address those issues. Secondly, another big issue that's been a big divisive force in our country and a lot in school boards all over the country is the critical race theory. The Indiana now we know we do not teach the critical race theory. That's been stated many times, but I think we need to do a little bit more, in my opinion, anyway. And so I would like for us to do a resolution supporting the Indiana Department of Education statement on the critical race theory. And I'd like to take a minute to read that, and then I will move on so we can close. But here it is. It says in Indiana, schools are required to teach the Indiana academic standards and the Indiana employability skills standards. Neither set of standards include critical race theory. Critical race theory is not designed for elementary, middle, or high school students. Additionally, the state of Indiana will not support, condone, or fund anything that alienates, discriminates, or negatively divides students based on race or background. So there's a little bit more to it than that, but if you get the gist. I'm not saying add anything to it. I'm not saying come up with some kind of wild statement. I'm just saying, hey, this is what our Department of Education says. So I say, let's get behind that. Let's support that. And I think we can come together on that, everybody in our corporation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Other board members, reports or requests?
Dr. Thacker, I've heard some constituents, and honestly, I could say the Roach family fits in this category, describe our payment for online fees as a bit clunky. It was took us a lot of time to go through that whole fee process. And I'm just wondering, is there any way the administration could take a close look at that and determine whether we can streamline it, improve it, tweak it, consider a different company if we absolutely have to. But I feel like our parents deserve a much easier system in the year 2021 than what we've currently got.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Roach. Yes, we'll take a look at that one. We've been reviewing it. We know that it's been less than user-friendly. So we want it to be customer-friendly, make it very, very simple for the parents. We appreciate the parents in that triangle of success, and we want to make sure that they can have an easier life of making fees and registering students.
With what, 13 kids between, not 13. So you're looking at parents of enough kids. That's we very appreciate. Very appreciate.
Louisiana.
11 kids between.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Other board members, reports or requests? Hearing none, we'll move on to the hearing of visitors. I understand we have a number of visitors who would like to address the board, so let me read our opening statement. At regular meetings, public is invited to address the board on general topics under the hearing of visitors without registering. A time limit of 3 minutes shall be enforced for persons wishing to speak during the hearing of visitors. Our board attorney, Mr. Jeff Johnson, will keep time. We'll let you know as time is expiring, so I invite you, please keep an eye on Mr. Johnson, who appears on the screen behind me. It is requested that names and addresses be stated at the beginning of such comments. Individuals may only speak once during this section of the agenda. Personnel issues are not to be addressed during open sessions of the board. Concerns about individual employees of the district should be brought to the superintendent or his designee. The board does not respond to questions or comments posed during the hearing of visitors. Here's how we'll do this. Several folks registered ahead of time to speak during the hearing of visitors. I will call on them first, followed by anybody here in the boardroom who would like to address the board, followed by anybody who's in the lobby who would like to address the board, and then we'll go to anybody who is joining us via our YouTube feed who would like to address the board. So first up, Anastasia Glassberg.
President Riley, I'll mention that Mr. Johnson and I will work in tandem, so I have his normal cards that he holds up. If it's easier for someone to watch to the side over here as well.
Fair enough.
The card holder.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and members of the Board of Trustees and the administration. I would like to highlight why I'm thankful for PHM and the people who serve our students and families every day. I know that a lot of us come up and talk about ways to strengthen our school system, but tonight's just all about gratitude. So first, as a former color guard member of our marching band, both my freshman and sophomore years when I attended Penn, I'm thankful that the band was recently given $120,000 for new uniforms. And they were able to be given this to the band without needing to use their own savings or from any of their fundraising. And I find this extremely impressive. And I'm grateful that PHM places just as much value in the arts as they do athletics. I'm thankful we have an administration and a school board who, without hesitation, pays our teachers more than any other district in the area, recognizing the value educators play in making PHM the best. I'm also thankful that PHM pays our bus drivers, food service workers, support staff, and ancillary staff all competitive wages, increasing their pay so we can recruit the best people to work within our buildings every day. I'm thankful for the most outstanding teachers in our area that I was personally educated by, many of whom are now educating my own children today. In addition to color guard, I was a member of choir for all 4 years, performing in both our chamber choir and concert choir as an upperclassman. I think it's called something different now. I was a prominent student of the theater department, a dance student, and a member of the speech team. I excelled in the arts. I was an honors English student. I took Japanese for 3 years from the beloved Sensei Wolfgang. None of this was by coincidence or happenstance. All of it was possible because of the people in positions of leadership that made sure all students were afforded these opportunities. There truly is nothing I could be more thankful for than my time and education at PHM. I began as a Mary Frank Mustang long before Horizon and North Point were even a blip on the radar. I attended Schmucker in 6th grade, and I'm proud to say that I was the very first 7th grade class of Discovery Middle School. My time at Penn was filled with excellence and abundance of opportunity, so much so that we decided to send our own children here, and we have 6 of them, to be a part of the traditions that helped shape who I am today. My children are now taking advantage of the very same arts and academic programs, and because of this, our family owes all of you gratitude. I want you to know that I'm on your side in making PHM the best school district it can be. That's it. There's no however, no but. I'm just thankful for each of you, and I hope you all have a blessed Thanksgiving with your family, friends, and loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Glassberg. We wish you a very blessed Thanksgiving as well. Next up is Mr. Bashiro.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and Board of Trustees. Transparency, accountability, leadership, and communications are the fundamental elements of what drives a successful school superintendent and board. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and the Board of School Trustees for the wonderful news the band family received from Mr. Northern a couple of weeks ago. The band members and their families were happy to receive a generous $120,000 funding of new band uniforms. The band puts so much time into their competition preparation and being ready to play under the Friday night lights. We are all looking forward to seeing the new uniforms in the fall. My second point tonight I would like to talk about is addressing email addresses for the Board of School Trustees. Prior to Mr. Wood's departure, we had 2 attorneys on the board. And if we want to include a 3rd attorney, that's our district attorney for the board. Transparency, accountability, and communication is being able to communicate and getting response via email from our board members. I understand that the board communicates through personal email addresses, and as a public figure in the district, the Board of School Trustees should be using Penn-Harris-Madison email addresses, as your discussions are subject to Indiana open door laws. I strongly encourage you to act on this. No one wants to subject their personal email to a FOIA. Lastly, will be the item that was brought up at the last board meeting. The board wanted to approve $150,000 to bring an outside consultant that supports critical race theory. We keep hearing time and time again, we don't teach critical race theory, but we keep having this conversation that leads back down that road. As a taxpayer, I'm strongly against this. And Dr. DeSoto's website is covered with critical race theory terms and videos. We are watching and being vigilant. Why would the administration take a step backwards like this? The money in question is almost 4 times the starting salary of one teacher. The starting teacher's salary is $41,000. It was just upped. That's 4 teachers' salary that we want to pay a consultant to come in who supports critical race theory. We can use that money to apply, like Mrs. Gates was saying, for book fees, which are just ridiculous. So I would like to challenge the Board of School Trustees and Dr. Thacker to figure out a way to make better decisions on who they bring in as consultants. Success of our students lie in the hands of this board and administration. Transparency, accountability, and leadership and clear communication is what we are looking for as parents. And let me leave you with this. Please remember, we are your customers. Our kids are your students, and you work for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bashura.
3 minutes.
Ben Dallas. Good evening, sir.
Hello, it's great to be back. I see more masks in this room than I did last Saturday at the wrestling event in the high school. So better check on them, make sure they're all still alive. Anyways, as we get going, my name is Ben, live in Mishawaka. I was here a couple weeks ago. I kept hearing, I'm kind of new to this, so I moved to this district like last year, during last school year. I got 3 boys in the PHM school district. And I've been watching all these meetings virtually, as I said a couple weeks ago. I keep hearing parents bringing up this pyramid of white supremacy that apparently somehow made its way in the curriculum. But what I know about it from speaking to the parents is you guys did denounce it. It never made its way to their kids, thank God. Okay, I know you guys don't support this, but the problem is, and the problem that we have is somewhere along the line, somebody thought this was a good idea. I don't know who, but that's kind of why we're curious. Somebody thought this pyramid right here, where it came from, it says right here, it came from the National Equity Project. That's where it came from, that word equity. You keep changing the definition to, right? So it came from that. In this pyramid that somebody thought was a good idea, again, we don't know who, political slogans, MAGA, that's a call to violence they teaching kids. Weird. Not supposed to be teaching political stuff in school, I thought. Racist things to say, or things like all lives matter, according to this, it's right here. Color blindness, that's another bad thing to say. I know nobody endorses this. I'm not saying you do, but the problem is, like I said, somebody thought this was a good idea. Who? We just want basic answers. Who thought it was a great idea at some point? And do they still work for the school? You know, that's kind of basic stuff. I just can't. The more I read this, the more, I mean, it's pretty sick. And the think that somebody thought our kids should learn this, that's alarming. And transparency, like the guy that just spoke before me, transparency. This may not be an official slide in the classroom. I've been reading all the SCL curriculum, and it's great. I've been reading it all, and so far I see nothing wrong with anything this year that's being taught. It's too bad it took COVID for us to realize what was been going on behind the scenes. But what we're concerned about is transparency. What are they talking about? How do we know stuff like this isn't being discussed, but not officially taught, not handed out? That's what parents want to know. What if it's on the chalkboard or something instead of a slide, right? So that's what we want to know. We want to know what the heck is going on. That's all I got. Thanks for having me here. I'm done.
Thanks for coming here tonight, Mr. Dallas. Thank you. Is there anybody else here in the boardroom who would like to address the board? Yes, sir. Please come on in. Please state your name and your address.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ross Deal. I live at 625 Pulling Street in South Bend. President Riley, board members, Dr. Thacker. I'd like to first express my appreciation for the wonderful teachers who have continued to be champions of our children's education over the last 2 academic years in the face of unprecedented challenges. I cannot say thank you enough. Now, I am a parent whose children are adults. So why am I here? I come to you as a supporter of public education and of public school teachers. Very soon, you will be making appointments of 2 individuals to serve out existing terms on the board. This is not unusual in itself. And the charge in every case is to find committed, high-quality individuals. What perhaps sets this apart is that the stakes have never been higher. Around the country, we are witnessing efforts to politicize school boards. In some instances, there have been threats to the personal safety of school board members or their families. Issues that are routinely taken up in order to set policy have become partisan issues, which hinders the ability of the board, of any board, to do its work. More recently, we have heard some state legislators want to make school board elections partisan elections. A very bad idea. And we can only hope that that does not come to pass. The United States Congress currently has a public approval rating in the neighborhood of about 24%. Why in the world would we want to emulate that? The issues of the day, and we've already heard, include masks and vaccines and critical race theory, and I'm not here for or against any of those. I'm not a proponent. I'm speaking, those are the issues in front of us. But there are others, and that is why it would be short-sighted to appoint any candidate who might be driven by a personal agenda or a political affiliation. Some of you may remember when important issues facing school boards were dress codes, hair length, makeup, jewelry. There were some strong opinions and there was division, but we worked through it. Did we get it right every time? Probably not. But decisions were made in good faith by good people doing a difficult job, and guess what? We got through it. Finally, the Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation has built an enviable reputation around the state, aided by numerous board members, past and present, superintendents such as Dr. Thacker and his predecessors, numerous administrators, professionals, and support staff.
3 minutes have expired.
Thank you.
Mr. Deal, thank you very much. And for anybody in the audience who's unaware, Mr. Deal himself was a long-standing public servant in Mishawaka. Thank you for everything that you've done for our community. Thank you for coming here tonight and addressing the board. We really appreciate your input and advice. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? Mrs. Bartish.
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, Mr. Riley, and board members. I'm Susan Bartush, and I live in Granger. I'm also a former parent of Penn students, and as you may know, I am in love with your school and the school corporation, and that's why I'm here. But I look at every year about this time at where we've come and where we're going. And as I look at the past year, I think, gosh, we should really be glad that we've maintained the in-person classes. We've made significant strides against this virus. And overall, life has been, well, pretty normal. Nonetheless, I'm very frustrated at the amount of time and inefficiency that continues to exist. I think that we can all agree that the most important thing, as we saw tonight with the Horizon children, is what happens to these children and that we provide a supportive and empowering, challenging environment so that every single one can reach their maximum potential. Instead, I fear that our children are too burdened with too many adult issues. It's not their chance to solve these yet. Their job is to learn and master analytical skills of reading, math, science, literature, and critical thinking. And instead of all these adults in this room being tied up with all these issues, they need to be able to support as parents and teachers. The second edition of the Parents' Bill of Rights was released today, and it reinforces parents' duty to contact teachers regarding their curriculum and lesson plans. If this process isn't streamlined, I can only see that this is going to be another huge burden for the faculty. Additionally, you probably know there are a significant number of FOIA requests that have been submitted since last June. Only a few have been officially closed and responded to, and others remain outstanding. Wouldn't it be better to give us feedback as to what is missing with these FOIAs and specifically why they can't be processed? Or better yet, are there questions that you could respond to during these meetings or in another less formal setting? And lastly, it just struck me as I read the paper that Luke Britt, as you probably know, the Indiana Public Access Counselor, explained in an informal opinion that there are rules for the public and parents to follow when requesting information. Parents want to follow these rules, but Mr. Britt also suggested that the parents and the community ask you, the board, for better ways to interact and have a productive relationship. Mrs. Gates' suggestion at our last
3
meeting-
minutes have expired.
Our follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bartosh. Always good to see you. Wish you a very happy Thanksgiving as well. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Christy Witt. I live in Granger. Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and the board, thanks for letting me speak tonight again. I just want to make 2 points tonight. As you embark on your responsibility to vet and interview candidates for the 2 open positions, please consider people that don't have a political agenda, can enhance the cohesiveness you already share, and think about those who are looking to help every kid be represented. We who have been engaged in their children's school and aren't just looking for a resume builder, because we know that's not an easy job you guys have. And I know Mr. Woods and Mrs. Galloway did not just do a resume builder. They were here for a long time. There are a lot of eyes on PHM. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Obviously, I don't know everyone in the community. I only recognize a few names on the list, but I know a lot. I know those few have attended many meetings in the past year. And if you're truly interested in being on the board of PHM and making it one of the best school systems to send your kid to, you would show up to see how the actual board operates, but maybe they're watching virtually. My second point is about masks. Even if Holcomb re-ups the 22nd time, and I appreciate Mr. Garrett bringing this up just in case, but I still want to remind you, it's an unrealistic demand to continue forcing masks on children. Munchausen by proxy is a mental disorder. It's considered child abuse. The responsibility we put on kids to save our county cases isn't working. Kids can develop low self-esteem, anxiety, or depression from these unrealistic demands. A quote from Lincoln: "Let every American, every lover of liberty, every well-wisher to his posterity, swear by the blood of the Revolution, never to violate in the least particular the laws of the country, and never to tolerate their violation by others." Nuremberg Code, Article 6, Section 3, says no government can mandate or force medical treatment without individual consent. The 14th Amendment also speaks for itself, and I feel like we've talked about this till we're blue in the face. The last couple meetings, you guys, I've heard a lot about literacy and interventions, phonemic awareness, which is awesome, hearing from the different schools. But every meeting I hear about this, it seems like a huge challenge because their kids are wearing masks. That's why it's the challenge. They're not seeing facial expressions. They're not being able to see the mouth move. And it just feels like you're in a hamster wheel when we constantly hear about literacy interventions. That's why they're wearing masks. Also, please let us know if any COVID ESSER funds have been used to purchase air purifying systems. Elkhart schools have a system every 900 feet and just went mask optional. Are we just counting on pro-mask doctors to purchase and donate to their kids' classrooms and cross our fingers that our kids are in that classroom? Providing us detailed information on how we are purifying the air. Our children who are trying to breathe for 7 hours would be a better situation than Masks for Life. I hope you all have a nice Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for you all for allowing us to speak every month. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your input as always. Anybody else here in the boardroom? Zinsky?
Don't upset at me, Mr. Riley. I'll be nice today. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Garrett, for bringing up critical race theory aspect and what Indiana said. I think it's important to know that we're not saying that Penn is teaching critical race theory. That is a college level issue. I'm saying it's being taught through the lens of race. That is what is happening. It's a praxis. It's being put into practice. When things are being taught, as we have to look through how it's affected by race for every little thing, you are essentially teaching the kids about it. You're teaching them how to use it. And that's what I don't want happening. Masks, thank you. They need to come off. We need to stop this. I understand Holcomb has got a hold on us that was hard and you guys can't really do too much about it. And I also want to bring up a school board applicant. Hopefully you guys all got the emails that we have asked to be sent out about Robert Hyde. If nobody, whoever's watching has not seen that, please go to Real News Michiana and check him out. Please vet our school board applicants. Please make sure that they are following and adhering to PHM values. I don't know if he was getting an interview or not. That has not been made public. I'd be horrified if he is. If he is, and he was going to be, I hope that you have changed your mind and will consider putting somebody else in his place who is better deserving of that position. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move to the lobby. Is there anybody who's watching via our closed circuit television lobby who'd like to address the board? Seeing none. Mrs. Bradbury, anybody online?
There are none.
There being no further business before the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just wanted to say one thing in response to something I did bring up the last board meeting. I have made a formal request that and it's in our board notes, just that that we review our process and talk about it, because that hasn't happened since I've been on the board. And so I know Mrs. Bradbury added that into the board notes, just a formal request. So just looking at the process.
Thank you, Mrs. Gates. Motion to adjourn?
I so moved. Second.
I have a couple questions, just follow
Take
up.
back that second.
Do you wanna go?
No.
Okay, so do you want to reopen the board hearing and requests?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Thacker, I just want to clarify something because I've now heard it once or twice, and I want to make sure I'm crystal clear on this. Was Dr. DeSautel's, did her contract, was it for $150,000?
No, it's my understanding her contract was for approximately $9,000.
$9,000?
Right, there's a different contract that was for a 3-year period with Dr. Sines, who is well-known working with social emotional, meeting the standards that Mr. Garrett indicated today when we talk about the kinds of Indiana academic standards. And that's what we're trying to teach. And so we're trying to be very, very careful. We think it's really important that the parents know exactly what we're doing. We know that we need them as partners. That they're a vital part of that triangle. So everything that we can do, if we can achieve that goal and help, we want to teach the same kinds of things you want taught, so that students learn to manage their time, manage emotions, and enjoy success, so they can self-actualize. And so there's some misinformation relative to that, because that was not really accurate information.
So can I ask that I think 150,000 was a line item in the ESSER funds to be used over 3 years for different types. I just would like some clarification maybe next month on.
Sure.
I think the number, I understand where the number came from. So I just want to make sure that we're really clear. And I put you on the spot. I didn't tell you I was going to ask this, but it came up tonight. So I wanted to ask.
And we'll be glad to bring that back and share what we're talking about with regard to some of those things. And it's because it is a 3-year professional development plan, which impacts our whole.
So
district.
the 150 grand is over 3 years, part of professional development. Okay. There's one other thing I wanted to say, but Jim, I don't mind.
I'm waiting for you.
You want to?
I just want to make sure I didn't get left out.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to thank every single one of the community members that submitted their name for these 2 open spots. After everything I read, I feel like every single one of them answered the call to civic service and exhibited tremendous dedication to our schools. And I think we received 14. And they were just simply outstanding. and humbling. And I think we're all committed to making this process as fair as possible. And it's going to be a very, very difficult decision precisely because these candidates are so impressive in so many different ways. And I just think that's worth celebrating. The fact that we have a very difficult decision ahead is worth celebrating because it means a lot of members of our community chose to answer that call. And that was just we haven't addressed it. And I just feel like we ought to put that out there and commit. I think we're all committed to fairness in this process. So
We are, and I'm glad you brought it up, Ms. Rose. Thank you very much.
I just had one quick question on, we talked about, I was not able to get to the last meeting, so I noticed that the contract for Dr. DeSaltis, hers was tabled. How about for the other guy? So there were two.
Everything was tabled.
Everything. So nothing has been decided yet.
Nothing's been.
That's great. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board? Then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, vote nay. We stand adjourned. It's 8:17 PM.